Today's prompt is one has to go. Is it Starbucks, Amazon, Target, or Chick-fil-A? Which one are you going to get rid of? So let's go ahead and let's take a tally for this. I'm going to scroll back up to the top. Okay, so what? Someone said Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, Target, Target, Starbucks, Target. Target, Target, Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, Target. Oh, someone changed their mind. Never mind. Target. 2 more Targets. I vote Target as well. Oh, there we go. Target, Target. There's a Starbucks, another Chick-fil-A. I am shooketh. Okay, so let's see. Y'all have 9 people for Target, no one for Amazon, 3 for Chick-fil-A, 2 for Starbucks. In my first period class, there was 5 for Target, 2 for Amazon, none for Chick-fil-A, and 6 for Starbucks. I would say for sure Target. I might go to Target like 2 times a year, if that. It's overrated, overpriced. I've bought one thing there in the past, I don't know, 3 years, and it was a pair of like water shoes, and that was only because I don't like to buy shoes online and I couldn't find them anywhere else that weren't like $150. So I would choose Target. I like the free Starbucks drink on your birthday, so big fan there. Besides that, I don't drink coffee. But thank y'all for participating in my one has to go. My screen did something weird. So today is Unit 10 test day. It is your test over waves. No one should be, okay, let me rephrase this. Tomorrow is the English 1 STAR test for freshmen. This class is an upperclassmen class, so we should mostly be juniors and seniors. So I do not foresee any of y'all taking the STAR test tomorrow. If you do have to take the STAR test tomorrow, for whatever your reason may be, then you should get your test done today. All right, I'm going to be using this recording for my B-Day classes because I have to proctor the test. So if you are a B-Day, 2nd or 4th period student watching this, you need to make sure you get your test done because you won't have a live lecture with me on Tuesday, and then you'll have 2 days to take it as usual. So it is the Unit 10 test day over waves. We are bringing the CER back. We had taken a break from it for a while because we used the CER on a project, and then before that was like finals. It was just all really weird. So we're bringing the CER short answer back. Here is the rubric to remind you. The rubric is always attached to the answer document for the CER and is located all over the hub. So you're going to make a claim. It is a statement. It is 1 sentence, short and sweet, explaining what is going on in the article. So like the Rio Grande is polluted after I read a whole article about it. So I'm saying that this article is about the Rio Grande being polluted. And then I'll list out at least 2 pieces of evidence in my evidence section, at least. The more you put, the easier it is for me to grade and the best chance you have for getting more points. And that evidence has to do something with your claim. If your evidence is about why is the sky purple, but you said the Rio Grande's polluted, then that makes sense. In your reasoning, that's the biggest part. That's the part that you do all the answering and explaining on. So you'd restate your claim. You would use at least 2 pieces of evidence from your evidence section to support said claim. So we're already at 3 sentences. You should explain why you chose each of those pieces of evidence. Boom, boom, we're up to 5 sentences now. On here, it says include prior knowledge that you learned in class. We're already at 6 sentences, and at least. And then you should always wrap it up and summarize, put a conclusion sentence on there. So you're looking at least 7 sentences. So if I'm looking at your CER and I see 2 sentences, 1 sentence, I already know you don't have everything you need. So make sure you're using the rubric to help you out. And the last part says it's all organized, there's transitions, I can understand it, there's no spelling or grammatical errors, there's no run-on sentences, etc. So that's a review of the rubric. Your two possible test article options for your Unit 10 test are these two that you see here. So we have one that is called Climate Change May Be Speeding Up Ocean Circulation. So we saw a TED Talk that said it was slowing down deep ocean currents, but what's happening with surface currents? So you will learn more about this in this article. This article came out in 2020, so it's pretty recent as well. And boom, they're both about the same length. This picture's just a little bigger. So there's that one, climate change and ocean circulation. The second one is about tidal floods driven by climate change may hurt small businesses. Notice we have a trend here, climate change. But this is not like flooding from a hurricane, a storm, whatever. This is just the natural tides that flow in and flow out because of the moon and how it causes flooding because the ranges are getting a lot larger. So it's going to explain that through that. This one came out from 2019, so not too old, just about 2 years. Okay, so you have both of these that you can choose from for your CER. The test and the short answer can both be found on the Hub. I've given you 80 minutes to complete the test. Give you plenty of time to be able to read through all the questions, look at the diagrams, etc. And for y'all, the test will be due on Tuesday by 11:59. If this is an even class period, second or fourth period, your test will be due on Wednesday by 11:59. Once again, both things can be found on the Hub, and you have 80 minutes to complete it. So now I'm going to ask y'all some questions and kind of change up the format. I guess I'm going to ask y'all some questions. I'm actually going to give you a chance to ask me some questions. And if you're a B-Day person watching this recording, hopefully my solid third period class that asks the best questions can help you out. So the first one to ask questions about is about currents. That was our first lecture. So I'm going to read off the things that I think you should know about currents, and then I will wait for y'all to ask me questions about that. I'm going to put a timer on because I'm not going to sit around and wait for you all day to ask me a question, but these are the topics that you should know. Surface currents, deep currents, Gulf Stream, thermohaline, the importances of currents, and the global conveyor belt. So I'll give you a chance to ask a question if you have one. Then I'll respond in the chat box and verbally. Number 5. All right, so that was my timer. Number 5, like I said, I'm going to type it out as well as answer it verbally. All right, so number 5 is thermohaline circulation. This is how deep ocean currents occur. This is how ocean circulation is controlled by the difference in temperature and salinity. Thermotemperature, haline salt. As the temperature changes and like around the glaciers, there's ice that sucks away fresh water. So it changes the salinity, which changes the density. Let's see. I see so that's what thermohaline circulation. Circulation controlled by temperature and salinity differences. All right. I'm going to do number 7 first, because I already have some of these typed up. So number 7 is the global conveyor belt. This is a system of ocean currents that transport water around the world. Wind primarily propels surface currents. So answering the global conveyor belt will answer the first two. Wind mostly controls surface currents, and those surface currents don't like to cross the equator. They are controlled by the Coriolis effect and wind. Deep ocean currents are controlled by density, and the density is affected by the thermohaline that we just talked about. So how cold is it and how salty is it? And so the global conveyor belt is how water gets moved around the world using both surface and ocean and deep ocean currents. As the warm water on the surface hits the poles, it gets cold, it sinks. And when it sinks, it's part of the deep ocean currents. Deep ocean currents travel all over the world. They're not controlled by the equator. And then at some points when they get closer to some parts of the world where they get closer to the equator, they warm up and they resurface. So it just keeps that water mixing around. So then I've knocked out deep ocean currents, which was a question. The Gulf Stream. The Gulf Stream is a type of surface current. It happens in the Atlantic Ocean between North America, Europe, and then some parts of Africa. It takes warm water from the Caribbean, the equator, moves it up the East Coast, and then takes it over towards Europe. And then that once it gets closer to Europe, it cools down and then it starts heading towards the equator again, close to Africa. And I'm going to type that up here in a second. And then we had number 6, the importances of currents. Let me get the Gulf Stream one. All right, so Gulf Stream equals, I can't spell. All right, so I already answered surface currents and the global conveyor belt. No, yes, in the global conveyor belt. So surface currents and deep ocean currents, I answered that in there. That's why I did that one. And then the importances of currents. There's a lot of importances of currents. Typing it. Those importances include moving nutrients, migration, what was the other one? Transportation and yeah, so transportation when the colonies are being settled, nutrients, moving, migration, yeah, okay, transportation. So I'll put that in the chat box. So I've literally answered every question on currents. There's not as many on currents, so we're not gonna get too crazy on the rest of them. So the next one is about waves. There's a variety of different topics for waves. And so I'm going to read them off and then give you a chance to ask them. The first 4 are labeling a wave graph. So if you can find the one from your notes, you'll be fine. So that is crest, trough, wavelength, wave height. And then we have riptide, tsunami, what affects the wave size, groin, seawall, swash, backwash, longshore drift, and a jetty. I see some questions. Let me see. Sorry, it takes a second for it to load sometimes. So I have what's a groin, what's a seawall, what's a jetty, and what's longshore drift. So the seawall, oh, I cannot type. The seawall, it is parallel to the shore. It prevents the shoreline from being eroded away. Galveston seawall is famous for the seawall. So it goes with the shoreline, like I said, and as the waves crash into it, prevents the shoreline from being pushed back. A groin is perpendicular to the shoreline, and it traps and prevents sediment from being washed down the shore. It is typically one protrusion, it's typically just one thing sticking off the shore. It's not like several of them right next to each other. It's just one perpendicular structure sticking off of the shoreline. All right, a jetty. It's very similar to the shoreline. It is perpendicular to the shoreline. It's similar to a groin. It's perpendicular to the shoreline, and it prevents sediment from clogging a channel. Oh, I cannot spell. Channel that boats use. And there are typically two protrusions that come off the shoreline. 9 and 10. Let's see, 7 and 8. We have 11. Okay. So a swash is the water moving up the shore from a longshore current, and it moves diagonally. A backwash is the water returning to the ocean from the beach, and it moves straight back and is influenced by gravity. All right, and then the last one is longshore drift. It is the waves that crash onto the shore, typically beaches, not cliffs. This is what moves you down the shoreline when at the ocean. It moves a lot of sediment. And once again, I like to say that it moves along the shore, longshore current. All right. Woo, that was weird. Okay, so now we're moving on to tides. Tides. We have slack tides, high tides, low tides. Tidal cycles, importances of tides, moon phases and tidal ranges, spring tide and neap tide. Give me a chance to look at that. Five. All right, give me plenty of time to look at those, and I have 3 questions on here. All right, importances of tides, just list a few. Spawning, so reproduction, mating happens because of during high or low tides. Boat movements in and out of ports, hydroelectric power is generated, it moves nutrients, and there's some more. It affects the food web and food chains, etc. There's a lot of them. Number 6, I'll come back to that one. It's 1, 2, and 3 are easier. So slack tide, no tidal movement. So this is like the chill time, nothing's happening. High tide is when the tides rise. And low tide when the tides decrease. 8. Okay, well, let me check. I'm going to explain 6 with 8. So the moon and sun pull on the tides, making them large or small. So a full and a new moon, high tidal range, and this is a spring tide. And then a 1/4 and 3/4 moon, they have a low tidal range. And this is called a neap tide. So I think I covered all of those at one time. We'll move on to the last part. Any questions about the ocean floor? So for the ocean floor, we have lots of structures. We have an atoll, guyot, seamount, island, trent, mid-ocean ridges, abyssal plain, continental slope, continental shelf, continental rise. My hint to you on this one is you're going to have to label. You're going to have to label, and that was all in our notes. And then on some of them, you might have like a definition question. I'm typing some of these up real quick. All right, so I spelled some of this wrong, but it's fine. Continental shelf is the most shallow part. It's where the shoreline is. Most plant and animal life lives here, and it's part of the continental crust. Continental slope is a steep slope coming up the continental shelf. It is also part of the continental crust. Continental rise is the end of the continental slope where the oceanic crust and continental crust meet. 2, 6, 1, 7, 8, 9, 12. We're doing all of them. Oh no. All right, so 2, guyot, and atoll. All right, 6 and 7. I start with guyot and atoll. I'm going to type it real quick and then I'll say it verbally. All right, so a guyot and atoll are really, really similar. An atoll used to be an island that sank down back into the water, but it left a coral reef behind. A guyot is literally the same thing, but there is no coral reef left behind. The next we have mid-ocean ridges and the abyssal plains. The abyssal plain is like the Great Plains. is considered the true ocean floor. It is typically flat. It is in the deep, but not the deepest part of the ocean. And then the mid-ocean ridges, this is where new ocean floor is formed. The plates are pulling apart from each other. Let's see. And then this is where you get like a mountain range under the ocean. All right. So I literally answered everything that I can think of that I saw. So I do want to say, you have your test. I'm gonna say good luck. I'm